Oh, GM. Welcome everyone to this session. I had the pleasure of moderating this session with Sebastian, which needs very little introduction. I'm Alan Lau, CPO of Animoca, and of course, Sebastian Bourget is co-founder of Sandbox, one of the most recognized project in the Web3 space. So a real pleasure, Sebastian. We have a lot of questions to get through today. Thank you for joining us. So I will get going. I think we'll start with a little bit of history. So, of course, you've been building a sandbox for over a decade, starting really as a mobile game with 40 million downloads before pivoting to blockchain. So, what were some of the key lessons learned from that original move from mobile to Web3, and what has been your journey?
But thank you, Alan, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Well, I think there's really a few essential takeaways that we took from like the actual mobile game of Sandbox. As you said, like it started in 2011. I guess the first takeaway, like the creator economy, is still like a very difficult economy in general for the creators. And even though like we had an amazing participation from various players around the world who were playing the mobile game and bringing all the content that contributed to that success, we were like very limited in like how we could reward the participation from such creators on the platforms back then. So on mobile, the App Store, the Google Play Store, there is actually no way to send any form of payment or value back to the users. And so as a user-generated content platform with over 70 million player-made creation, as a company, we were earning a lot of revenue from the player transaction on a game, and we couldn't send a portion back to the creator. So blockchain and NFT really came out as a large solution for us, like solving the problem of ownership, of like being able to not need any intermediary for like sending and transmitting money in the case of like cryptocurrency here, and even like having external marketplaces where users can buy and sell the creation online. So that's really have been really a real solution to a problem. The other takeaways is essentially as you're building a user-generated content platform, like you always have to start with like showcasing the possibility of that platform. So it's not because you provide the tools that the content will come through. And so before we even started to launch Sandbox, I remember we started to work with probably 100 pixel artists who generated 1,000 games and worlds that we showed already when we launched that mobile game originally. And so that particular effect had helped bootstrap the network effect and like really engage all the creators by showcasing them what's already possible to do in the platform. And that we applied as well in the learning from like building the new version of Sandbox with blockchain. And the third thing that we did, I think that we learned through the ways as well. Basically, the approach that it's always more fun to create when you have like something you find cool. And with Sandbox, we experimented few brands collaboration back then on the mobile version, which were like Pac-Man, Shrek, Invincible, I think, and that's it, free. And then we realized that when we had those brand collaboration, like we had like such an increase of participation from the creators who were like more inspired to do fun thing with their favorite characters. And so we applied it to the blockchain-based version. And today, like you know, Sandbox counts over 400 major brands partnerships. So we really doubled down on what worked well afterward.
Mm. That's right. So, very interesting journey. I mean, a lot of things in Web2 that were broken around ownership, payment, as you said, blockchain was really a solution. And of course, IP, as you said, I saw in your background, Jurassic World, right? So, these are the
Right.
kind of IP that excite creators, right? Um, and yeah, I guess, going on that, I mean, this year's theme, I understand that Sandbox is building through cycles. And you previously mentioned that season four is one of your strongest season yet, despite the bear market. So how do you maintain that growth momentum when crypto sentiment is at best flat?
But that's, I think like one of the strengths of Sandbox is like we've been really demonstrating that any NFT that you could acquire as a user as like almost an immediate utility. And the platform was continuing to like update itself regularly with new product update for the creator, new season like the Alpha Season 4. Actually, we already launched Alpha Season 5 and wrap it up already, and the Season 6 is coming along. So accelerating as well on the content and giving the sentiment of confidence to the community that like we're here at the project. It's not because you don't hear so much about the metaverse in the media that things are not happening. Like the metaverse is far from dead. Actually, with Season 4, with Season 5, we've proven that we were having as many active users as we had back in 2021 and 2022. And as people, like as we're building this habit of delivering regular product updates, real utility for the avatar collection, the land, and all the other NFTs in Sandbox, like now like Jurassic World eggs, for example, for the dinosaurs, it really helped to build that trust level in the community. It helped to push Sandbox still um, as one of the most noticeable, recognizable, and loved brand in Web3. And probably it has a positive effect as well in like the other um, aspect of what makes Sandbox great, such as the Sand token, which is still a top 100 cryptocurrency according to CoinMarketCap and top 3 gaming coin, despite having maybe a little bit less activity. Also, this market cycle allows us like to focus on like the priority, like where are our strengths on the land, on the brand, on the sand, and on the creator. It's really where we double down our efforts, accelerating our product release, being less distracted by projects that might have less value and less actual long-term impact than during like those bullish times. And and basically also improving the monetization by users. So focusing on like increasing the engagement time and the retention. And the proof is that during Season 5, we were able to increase by 4 times the average revenue per user, as well as double the engagement and playtime to over 1 hour 30 on average per user. And it also allows us to shift our focus toward like the metrics that actually matter. And we believe now like one of the key metrics for Web3 gaming should be the return on reward spend rather than just like the number of users who have like taken some of the token from your participating and then cashing them out of the game. So typically the return on reward spend is measured as like for every one sand token that the player receives, how much of that sand token will actually be reinjected in the game economy in the form of like NFT purchase and so on. And like we've been able to increase that ratio, proving typically when in the Season 5, when we distributed 1.1 million sand in rewards, 900,000 sand were actually spent in the game by the purchase of NFTs from the player, which proved like there is a way toward like building a profitable business model with Web3 gaming if we like spend the right time and we continue to focus on it.
Yeah, I think that return rate is very impressive. I mean, that really is an indication of loyalty, of engagement. People wants to come back. But as you said, I mean, it's really about building through the different cycle, keep on delivering and finding ways to engage with, creators and users, which, clearly from Season 4 and Season 5, it seems that you're doing from the metric of retention, as you said, that you have. Very impressive. I guess, one more question around gaming, right? I mean, it hasn't been the hottest sector because, people have put a lot of attention to memes and to AI. How do you view the relative underperformance of the entire gaming sector? And, does it tell you something about the maturity of Web3 gaming?
Well, I, I would say like yes, like it's been probably challenging for many game studios that who entered into Web3 gaming and like didn't pass through those difficult time. But at the same time, I'm rather optimistic because I try to put things in perspective and like the failure rates of like Web3 games actually is not higher than the failure rate of actual of Web2 games. Like as you probably know, like the gaming industry is one of the most competitive industry in the world. Like out of like the thousands of games that go out every day, maybe one title in a year will become a hit and become profitable. I think something around 95% of all games only will survive when they are launched on the App Store and actually be profitable enough to keep like being updated through the live ops cycle and so on. And all the rest, unfortunately, is like a dead pool of games from indies, from to professional studio who didn't find a model. The second thing I keep in mind is like the gaming industry has become a master of copycatting. Like basically the success of the free-to-play business model is like we have one hit game and then we try to deconstruct that game and replicate everything about it with slight change in graphic, little twist in the gameplay. And all the top grossing gaming industry is based on those games which are like variation of like um, strategy game, match three game, simulation game, city builder games, and so on, with a little twist over time as like game designer improve progressively. And the thing is, like in Web3, we have not yet found the successful business model that everyone should replicate. We're still, I consider, in an early phase where there is a lot of experimentation. Interesting things are coming along, and sometimes one hit is sufficient to bring back a lot of attention and copy. But we've seen as well that like there is no unique model. So of course, experimentation, a lot of them are bound to fail. But the knowledge we acquired from these failures, in my opinion, will hopefully serve to build the next hit. And on the bright side, there's still like games that are performing extremely well in Web3 gaming, from Off the Grid that had over 12 million users and that now is going to launch in mainnet. MapleStory M that a few weeks ago when it launched, it generated over $1.2 million if like transaction fees alone from players trading on the marketplace. Pixels as well is doing great, and like games like NFL Rivals or FIFA Rival by Mythical Game as well have proven that it's possible to do Web3 games that are successful and keep growing.
So it's quite interesting. So, there are still games breaking out in Web3 as well. Maybe a little bit less mature than Web2, but the dynamics, as you said, is quite similar. And, I think the good players are still breaking out. So, um, I guess, another thing that, we've heard you talking about, in your other speeches is sometimes you said people's Web3 conviction is really tied to Bitcoin prices. So how do you separate building fundamentals from market cycle? And, what metrics do you think matters during the bear market? Which, I think you've mentioned a few that you've started to measure, but it will be interesting to hear your take on it.
So, well, I think it's difficult on one side to embrace the idea of decentralization and giving the opportunity to people to finally, through ownership, have asset of value and make a revenue from it, and at the same time complain about it. So it's more like about finding the right balance around your users and understanding that your audience will be more diversified. You will have typically people who are here for the core gameplay that your game has to offer, and they will engage, spend time, hopefully make purchase, and that's the typical gamer audience that we are used to in the gaming industry. And then you have all those people who are participating into meta game, what I call like the meta game or the financial game, which is like how what they enjoy actually is to maximize the financial outcome they can get from the ownership of their assets. And
Mm,
sometimes like it's part of like being smart about it, understanding like who is your core audience and maximizing whether like you're launching asset that are in a way yield bearing, so like can provide like a certain predictable outcome into the revenues they will generate through the gameplay, or like how like their scarcity might impact their price, and work around like how do you create the demand, and you also sometimes optimize for mechanics that makes players swap their asset or transact with each other those NFTs on marketplace as the gameplay isn't constantly only requiring the same items and already providing a play to win to like very few players.
mm,
Um, so it's a lot about design. It's a lot about like understanding your audiences.
mm,
I feel like every new platform, any new device, has as well brought its new form of entertainment, and generally speaking, has been enlarging the audience of gaming. We've seen that with whenever like smartphone came in and console like Switch, 3DS, etc. Like it brought a lot of like more casual gamers. Today we have roughly 3.5 billion gamers around the world, which are very different from your typical console hardcore gamers. The latest example is Telegram Ton network. I think has brought a lot of attention and a lot of players, proving like that network effect in Web3 can work very efficiently and onboarding a lot of people that you would not call traditional gamer, who are like farming coins and moving rapidly over different apps like Hamster Combat and a few others, just to name a few. However, I think that's always this exciting opportunity to keep converting those users, and like what will they do next of their token? How do you offer them something of value so that they don't want to cash it out immediately into another token or fiat? it's all about like what I was mentioning, measuring your return on reward spend and putting in place a design loop that makes that people like need to actually spend time and hopefully enjoy spending that time to get their reward. So in the case of Sandbox, we have this battle pass. People can play for free for a few hours, get probably 10-cent token, no requirement. But if they purchase the alpha pass, then the experience is largely improved and they can earn up to 200, 300 cents. And if they have certain premium NFTs, they unlock new quests into some of the branded experience that we had, like Jurassic World, Bruce Lee, British Museum, or Deepak Chopra, which allow them to earn more collectible NFTs and even more sand as well. And it works. So I guess like it's probably a great recipe to increase engagement and to prove that those users, if you have the right um, offer, value proposition in front of them, can convert as well.
And I think it sounds like it's also recognizing that there are different types of players that come play, right? There are people that came for the game, there are people that came to earn or, to trade and to invest, right? So recognizing them and, as you said on the Ton example, people may come through a different type of experience, right? Because they're part of the Ton ecosystem. But I think the key is really try to convert them and really, provide that engaging game experience for the players, right? So maybe
Yeah.
switching gear a little bit to the creators. So you've touched on this briefly at the beginning, right? So I think Sandbox has solved the creator retention problem that was very common in Web2 mobile game with blockchain monetization. So can you say a little bit more about how digital ownership changes the creator economy compared to the traditional App Store Web2 models?
So like what digital ownership has enabled is like basically creators to have like new source of potential income, like not just like selling pack of virtual currencies and like in-app purchases, but also like to benefit from um like selling those NFTs and sometimes as well introducing their own token or coin onto the game and using it as a way to drive loyalty, engagement, rewards, airdrops, claims, and so on. Um, I found like a few exciting examples in Sandbox of how those creators have been leveraging collection of NFTs, creating like gated experiences, fully gated or partially gated, introducing sometimes like challenges, time limited challenges with like leaderboards where like the ownership of certain NFTs or tiers of NFTs is required to enter certain pool and you get access to various prices. So it's a way of like you own a stake of my collection, which give you a chance to earn and participate and compete with other players of the community. That's been a great example. In the early days of NFTs, I guess until 2022, maybe 2023, royalties were still a thing in the NFT world, and that also contributed a lot to like the success of monetization for creators. Um, Unfortunately, there's no more royalties that prove as well as how fast like things are changing in Web3 and how business models cannot be established as these things are now things of the past. But back then, when creators were earning royalties from the secondary sale generated on the trade of like their content and the creation, many of them were actually reinvesting those royalties back into the economy to support other creators. So that's really
Mm.
something we kind of lost, I feel like, both on like OpenSea, in digital art, and in the user-generated content economy. We still give royalties on the Sandbox marketplace, but I feel like other marketplace kind of lost that. But OpenSea V2 has launched a new model. Blur and Magic Eden have new model where like loyalty, I think now is like more rewarded with token as well. So there might be something coming back.
That's right.
And yet, I think we haven't explored every possible option for creators to be able to monetize on Sandbox. So we understand that some creators were not uh, like were not able to turn a profitable revenue from the activity. That and that has led to some constraints. Some of them leaving the ecosystem. We will introduce new options this year, allowing them to like have the ability to monetize better their land. I think it's a top priority. Just to give some numbers, though, in 2024 we distributed over 14 million sand in rewards to the creator, and I think like the top 10 earn in aggregate over 1 million sand. So through the builder challenge, the game jam, etc., it's still very valuable prices, and the most engaged creator are still active here and building.
Mm. I think tied to, the royalty point. I mean, right now, I think Sandbox give back 95% of the revenue to the creators, which, I think is fantastic. But, I guess the question is this sustainable for Sandbox? And how does that impact your personal economics as you think about what you want to do going forward?
So I think like what makes something sustainable for Sandbox first is like a lot of the value that Sandbox is generating based on the white paper is coming from the Sand token itself, right? It's like that token which is like 900 million dollar FDV more or less now. So it's uh it's been like really a factor that also help to attract creators and attract older audiences to love the brand, become holder, and want to have a stake in the success from the creator economy without being builder or players themselves. And we will put more emphasis on that side. Now, um, it's all an economy at scale.
Mm.
Like, and it works. Why does it work on Roblox even when like creators only earn 30% of their creation? It's because Roblox has reached 100 million of users, probably 200 million monthly active now. Fortnite as well. Um, which like any experience that has more than 100,000 million users start to make the economics work and the creator earns more than a couple of dollars, dozen of dollars, hundred of dollars, which for them turns it something like pocket money into potentially a hobby that becomes a full-time job. So we keep working on that. I think like the primitive are here, the blockchain offer the transparency and higher rewards, and progressively, I know it took time. It didn't happen overnight for Roblox to grow to that level. I think it took them 15 years. I hope Sandbox can prevail. Right now, we're still the number three largest virtual world platform, right behind Roblox and Fortnite. Brands believe in us, keep coming to Sandbox. Creators participate and engage. I think we reached 3,000 experiences live on the platform. So it's a matter as well of like staying focused and keep delivering until the big moment happens.
Yeah. I think building on that creator point, I mean, I think you touched briefly on it as well. What other trends do you see in creator behavior and content quality if you look, let's say over the past 2 years? What has really changed?
Well, we're starting to see two divergent trends, and that's quite interesting. So first of all, like Sandbox, like our main mission is to empower anyone to become a creator. So the way we've achieved that is like by launching this no-code game maker that became really the introduction point for many artists and first-time creators to make games and all sorts of experiences in the metaverse. People who have like no specific skills, technical background, not even like gaming or marketing background and so on. So first-time creators who learned their way through making games, and some of them became successful, earned really significant price in sand, and are still here in our ecosystem today. And some of those creators like keep building game jam after game jam, builder challenge after builder challenge, and as we update the game maker with new possibilities. The version from 2019 or 21 versus today is so much different. Like it offers like a lot of new possibility for like multiplayer games, having your own rules, social gameplay, and different like abilities for the avatar, better graphic, better performance, and so on and so on. So opens a lot more possibility for the creator. Maybe makes it like the more depth, more possibility means maybe a higher barrier to entry again, but still much more accessible than Unity or Unreal typically for anyone who wants to make game. And on the other side, like we're exploring new trend with AI, specifically vibe coding. I think like Gen AI and vibe coding as probably like the next like stepping stone for introducing even more people to become creators. And it becomes as simple as prompting for people to be able to generate an asset in 3D or a whole world and scene and experience. We haven't launched anything yet related to that. We've been experimenting with private groups at the moment, but it's pretty fun. And the fun thing is like the quality of the game that are actually generated by AI are they are super low to be honest. Like it's not mind blowing. It doesn't replace the human yet. But at the same time, it's not because like games are low quality that they are not fun and
Mm.
that they will not drive millions of users, by the way. So we don't want to be a filter to that and say, oh, this is too low quality, it should not go live. Like we should just embrace it, have like a lot of content and see what works. And why is that? Like if you play an average Roblox game, well, you don't even understand like how such an ugly game can
Yeah.
actually be so successful at the
Not
same
looking for
time. And
beautiful
like I
graphics,
take
right?
like
Yeah.
uh flash game, casual game. So it's all about the fun and the core mechanic. And I think vibe coding really and AI really brings that back into like the peak focus, like the fun at the core.
Yeah, super interesting because sometimes people are not looking for that super high definition quality in the graphics, but it's the fun of the
They
game,
they
right?
want like a snack bite experience, 2 minute fun. I can play, I can race. Like some of the most popular games are the most stupid as well. Like just get a character that falls some stairs and like a ragdoll explode. Angry Birds was a great example of that. Typically, Temple Run and all those casual gameplay have proven to bring on the largest audiences as well.
Yeah. So how do you make that trade-off and balance, right? Because you mentioned that, vibe coding, that's very simple. You mentioned Ton as well, also an ecosystem of hyper casual games. The sandbox is pretty complicated compared to those, right? So do you feel you find the right balance so far with, adoption with a more sophisticated, gaming and metaverse experience?
The one thing you have to keep in mind, and probably I should have said that as well in the first question, is like with user-generated content, you will never lack of content. But there, like, you will also be so surprised by whatever like the creators will come. Like there is this infinite imagination, full of ideas, and then it's so surprising, and you never know what will work. So that's what I love about on the Sandbox platform as well. Is on one side we have like the brands, and we have those official collaboration working with either our own team or like vetted studio, part of our trusted partner program, where we do more polished game experience at online with the brand graphics, storytelling. The whole IP is very like we've proven that we can really deliver well on the lore and the IP, respectful of that. And on the other side, all the UGC side is offering like a quite diverse set of experience with various range of quality that like offer like more content for people to explore and to enjoy and find like what their favorite what's their preference actually.
So, it's really about once, I guess the whole ethos is decentralization as well, giving that option to creator and then, you get that richness back as well, right? I think we've talked briefly about memes and AI, and certainly another thing that's been very much, on trend is the fact that there are so many different blockchains, right? L1 and L2s and all that, right? So, for Sandbox, what solution do you see emerging for cross-chain interoperability in the next 12 months?
So you're absolutely right. Like now, there is blockchain are so commoditized, and like there is such a I would say blockchain gaming has grown. It's bigger than ever, but it's also like so fragmented. So we have, I think we have something like 300 million active wallet in various blockchain game. But well, 4 years ago, you only had like Ethereum and Polygon. Today you have Avalanche, Immutable X, Ronin, and um, Ethereum, Polygon, Solana as well, and all those are and Telegram Open Network, and all those have their silos of users which don't communicate. So I believe there will be a future and actually an opportunity in like whoever will build like cross-chain interoperability for like the digital asset and the currencies and tokens, allowing like those audiences to flow across those different games and ecosystem and actually benefit more from the network effect that Web3 is supposed to bring.
Yeah. And I think that, I think in some way it's going to be application, games like Sandbox that bring all these users together across the different ecosystem, right? So maybe we get to the last section where we look forward a little bit, right? So, I think there's quite a lot of success with the recent season, and in fact, you've really stepped up in frequency. I mean, it used to be far fewer season, and now you do four seasonal events in a year. So, as you scale, how does that operational scaling up teaches you about sustainable growth in the Web3 platform space?
Yes, so we're aiming for four. I think like we reached three this year, which is already a great step forward. Like we increased from once a year to three, so that's more regular moment for the community to connect, to play, to earn reward, to share memories together, and like keep building that retention scheme as well. I think that's really important, and I prove as well like we improve the tools and the process behind to ship high quality content with top brands partnership on one side top UGC content made by creator with a new version on the same time as well. Um, for me, I think it's really something great and essential to have this combination. And ultimately, I believe that a way forward to even more decentralization will be that one day those season and content will be even self-organized by the community and the creators themselves, or the balance between like what we produce ourselves, which is roughly 50% of the content with brand and 50% UC will become like 95% UGC and maybe just 5% with top brands on our side.
And as you said, technology like AI is going to make it easier for creators to come up with even more UGC content, right? Um,
Absolutely, and that profusion of content, like I was referring to 3,000 lands on the map that are published, but our map is 166, 464 in total. So what is there on those other lands? Well, if creators don't want to spend the time, and I understand why they would not, like maybe they are not gamers, they're not creators, they don't want to hire or find someone, they should still have the ability, I think, pushing a button to have something deployed on their land that's already a fully fun game generated and could potentially bring them some form of revenue. So that's what we have in mind when we also implement AI for all those landowners, which we have more than 27,000 on Sandbox, and keep delivering value to all the different pool of audience in our ecosystem.
Hmm. That would be a very interesting future for both creators and users. We've talked briefly about Web2 games. There are still traditional gaming platforms like Steam that ban blockchain games. So we've seen this resistance from traditional gamers as well. Do you think this is going to change? How to bridge this divide and achieve mainstream adoption?
I think it's going to change because like we've seen like all the largest studios in the game industry actually not necessarily become shy on blockchain again, like Nexon with Maple Story M. We've seen Square Enix launching various titles, Ubisoft as well. They did various collaboration in Sandbox with the Rabbits or Captain Laserhawks. Come to us and few others, which are like also have a quite great reputation for making like successful Web2 games and bolster like large communities and audience of players, embrace progressively Web3 and introduce it in a way that is not it's not the blockchain for the blockchain and connect your wallet first to enter the game. Like they have been smarter in how they integrate it, and I think it will become quite natural. And like the more adopted the technology will be, the more invisible it will be at the end. People might not even know that underneath there is a blockchain powering the ownership of their asset, or that the fact that they're able to sell it to another user is actually an NFT underneath, and there is like a transaction on chain and so on. Like NFL Rivals, for example, is a great example of that. People are actually trading um, player cards, without calling it an NFT without having to list it on OpenSea. It's all in the game and without knowing or owning crypto. And I think that's proven to be successful.
And I think,
Um,
especially with
mm.
companies like Stripe, get buying companies and, building crypto rails into their services, as you said, people will be using crypto without even knowing it, right?
It does. I think Animoca brand did an interesting test as well. Like as Epic finally won this court lawsuit versus Apple, like now they can release the store, they can have alternative way of payment, and Apple cannot refuse to have like token and crypto payment as well in games. And I think Animoca launched already with the
How?
Tower token and Crazy Defense Hero game. The possibility to buy the asset outside with the token, and you saw like an increased conversion level and more engagement through people who actually spend with cryptocurrency versus the Apple. So we're getting there. The only thing like the unfair advantage that those platforms still have, like App Store, Epic Store, etc., is like they have collected our user data before. So they already own our identity, they own our credit card. So there is still a few less steps for anyone who wants to make an in-app purchase versus like paying in crypto or paying with credit card on Stripe and so on. But as like this become an habit, will and everything becomes more commoditized, I hope like there will be some change and
Hmm.
good progression for Web3.
I think with the broader adoption by institution as well, I think, crypto will become more commonplace, both invisible and more widely held, right? I guess another thing that I've really wanted to ask is some fun project that you seem to have set up recently. You've recently co-founded Artverse, a physical gallery in Paris that brings together digital and physical art. So how important is the physical and digital bridge in your mind for the future of virtual world?
I think it's always been essential, like to showcase like the metaverse is a place of culture where like people are not just going to play games, but are like, going to encounter like the favorite celebrities coming from entertainment, music, sport, fashion. So we have all those collaborations from Snoop Dogg to Gucci to Warner Music typically. And we were also very deeply involved into like the Web3 ecosystem, buying art from digital artists or buying some of like most popular NFT collection from PUBG Penguin to Bored Ape and so on. Like Sandbox is a large owner in every single one of those projects. And not just keeping it themselves, like keeping all those NFT for ourselves in a wallet, but putting them to use and to display into all those virtual worlds for people to enjoy, to be inspired, to discover. And that spirit actually led me to like, well, I can do it in the virtual world, I can do it physically in all the different office spaces that the Sandbox has. And then I started to run out of physical place. I said, okay, let's do it as well and support the creator with a dedicated art gallery, which we opened a year ago in Paris, the third arrondissement, the most cultural neighborhood with a lot of art gallery already. It's called Artverse, and it does become through this year, like I think one of the flagship plays for any Web3 event, Web3 community, AI community, and a lot of like um, digital artists and crypto artists like launching their new solo exhibition. Today, for example, we have um, the solo show of Jeff Davis, one of the first generative artists on Art Block, and yeah, and has like a long history as well. And like this is a huge name for everyone who's like deep in this space, and like a great way to onboard as well because of the physical gallery. A lot of potential traditional art collector or curious people to discover what it is about. So also like serving as a way to educate people about like what the technology brings, while like still being very approachable and accessible.
That's great. I mean, it looks like you've got an exciting program running there. I still haven't had a chance to visit. I'll make sure that I go see it next time I'm in Paris. Um, you
Soon.
know, looking forward, a little bit of market forecast, right? So the metaverse market is expected to get over 100 billion by 2028. What do you think is the biggest opportunity and risk for builders entering the metaverse space today?
So, it's something really interesting. Like between 2021, we had roughly 300 million users in the metaverse. Today is around 700 million if you combine like Roblox, Fortnite, and Sandbox. I guess we'll get 1 billion user by before 2030, actually. And like metaverse is inevitable. Like it will become we might be already in the metaverse to some extent, but it will become part of like our habit. And why is that? Because all the brands are using virtual world and gaming to create more engaging experience to reach out to younger audience. This is what is now relevant culturally. This is the new social media where like you share brand value, you allow people to discover, and potentially you will drive new sales channels through that. The mistake would be to come with directly a sales strategy, opening a virtual shop and like trying to sell like goods. Like we've seen it, it didn't work for many reasons. People don't come to the games or metaverse to buy. They um the process to buy are less efficient than on Amazon, where in 2 seconds you can get your product almost to your door. And
Yeah.
so people are coming in virtual world with the mindset of exploring, of discovering, and to learning about the brand and so on, socializing. And like that's other dynamics in place, such as like reputation, digital identity of avatar, your self-expression, how you dress your avatar. So the content that is actually the most sold in general in the virtual world is like skins for avatar, and then emotes like new dance and ways to express yourself. And as some platform like Roblox are also now opening API for commerce, I'm sure that there will be creators that figure out like what's the best way to convert into like a proper sales channel. And it doesn't need to be like the top luxury brand of the world only that will benefit from that. I'm sure like native creator or digital creator will find ways to sell to their fans, to their community, like actual physical product that might like please the collector. Like we're all collector of like if I take Mario, we all love not just playing Mario on our Switch, but we have like figurines of Mario in Sandbox. Some of our creators are already making like a lot of lots of 3D figurines, 3D printed figurines of world. Like yeah, you don't see behind me, but a lot of things that can appeal to an audience as well.
That's great. I mean, I think people come to the metaverse for experience and engagement, but maybe they'll find new ways to do commerce, but not in a traditional e-commerce, click and buy kind of way. So maybe as to wrap up, what would be, some key messages for DeFi and institutional audience here about the investment thesis for user-generated virtual worlds, and what should they watch for from the sandbox in 2025?
So, um, for me, like it's all about like the importance you see into like what digital economy and the creator economy mean and it's going to impact. Like as this Gen Z is actually spending more time, 2 hours, 3 hours a day on average, into virtual world to connect, to socialize, to educate themselves, now to work and to earn a revenue eventually. Um, all the revenue that comes from those activity online, whether they are about like streaming, about like creating, about selling digital goods and NFTs from your games, creating games that earn a revenue as well, it will translate at some point into like value that would flow back into the real world economy, your real bank account, and so on. So recognizing like that all the jobs that are derived from the creator economy is essential. I guess like providing like the financial rails for people to actually make a living, either working a job in the physical world or working a job online in a digital space is essential. Like it's only going to be like a growing portion of humanities that like make a revenue from digital activity. Where AI is going to accelerate that as well. I feel like people fear that AI will replace a lot of jobs. Yes, but it will create a lot of new jobs as well, and like how we are using that tool in digital space to interact and produce so much faster. We'll also have like agents that are like generating revenue for ourselves automatically, like all those virtual AI agent trading and like pushing and streaming all the time. And so I think like any financial institution who can bring the liquidity, can actually tokenize real world asset as well, and on the other side can like offer and recognize existing tokens like sand or stable coins, etc., and like the value that comes from the creator economy behind will attract that audience, will be a winner, and will develop like a growing financial system that benefit the whole world economy in general.
And I think that's the power of Web3, right? How do you combine, that engaging experience, but also, with ownership and the financial side of it? I think that's really unique. Well, thank you so much. I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you, Sebastian, for your very generous sharing. I think there's a many takeaway for the audience. I've certainly learned a lot. And thank you once again for joining this session on crafting virtual worlds with the one and only Sebastian from the Sandbox. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you everyone in the metaverse, and thank you, Alan.
Bye bye.